time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. You've been waiting all day, so join the show now by calling 800-956-7266.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome into Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network live on this Friday night as we sweat out the storm of 2018 across the state of South Carolina, hoping everybody is doing well. Hopefully things aren't as bad as projected. I know that's easy to say for those of us who aren't getting hammered by the wind and the rain and the flooding and all that right now. And, of course, there is more to come for sure. But hopefully things aren't going to be as bad as some projected earlier in the week. You never know with these storms what kind of nature they're going to take as they move along. Phil Kornbluth here on assignment in Atlanta, not because of the storm. This was a prearranged visit here as part of the coverage of Clemson tomorrow against Georgia Southern. Will Pelagic is back, hunkered down at our Columbia studios, Main Street, along with Fran with a K. Halloran, not to be confused with Fran without a K, Halloran. This would be Frank Halloran handling the phone calls and the dials and making sure we sound perfect tonight. It is a very, very, very busy Friday night for you, as you well know. So if you are out and about, you're taking care of business, sit back, relax, tune in. You'll enjoy the program. Dan Radakovich is coming up in just a few minutes. He'll talk about why Clemson is playing its football game tomorrow, and he'll give you the background on all of that. We'll have our football filibuster at the bottom of this hour, our Sterling picks a little bit later on in the hour. We will go behind enemy lines and hear from Danny Reed, the voice of Georgia Southern. David Shelton will be here. We'll talk high school football. There were games this week, last night and on Wednesday night. No games in the state tonight. David will be here to talk about what has happened thus far. We will have our high school scoreboards for you tonight. If you want more high school talk, our high school scoreboards will run at 10, 10:30, and 11 o'clock tonight. The full Monty on NASCAR. We have got so much to get to tonight, plus recruiting. Will, I think the main thing, though, is so far, for the most part, so good. I know the sports schedule in our state was severely damaged by the storm. It looks like, for the most part, in the state, Clemson is going to be the only college team to get something in tomorrow. Yeah, they will, Corn, and it's interesting. We also talked about Limestone playing on the road at Tusculum and Wofford playing on the road at Wyoming. Those are the only teams of state significance that are playing at least this weekend. Of course, we had Coastal and Newberry scheduling their games for earlier in the week, both of them winning. This is a decision I'm sure that they did not take lightly. The fact that they waited up until noon today to make a final call on the game just shows you, I guess, how sensitively they were treating this. I guess from the standpoint of where they sit based on the demand that's going to be, or the decrease in demand for this game necessarily for fans that don't necessarily be coming in. I think you're going to expect a diminished crowd, and that's not necessarily an insult. It's more the fact that just from practical standpoints, people who would be coming from either the Low Country or the Midlands, or even parts of the Upstate, possibly using more discretion to not come to this game. So because of that, they're thinking maybe they can get by without the South Carolina basically highway patrolmen who would be staffing this game. And obviously that was put out in the release. They said that they're not going to use the South Carolina Department basically there because of the fact that that they are staffed to other parts of the state that absolutely need them. We are seeing obviously the Myrtle Beach area and the greater parts of the coast there getting hammered, as you mentioned. I mean, they must feel some sort of security in the fact that they could play this game. I would feel more comfortable if they were playing it, say, on Friday. But I know that they want to at least kind of protect the integrity of a football Saturday. They've talked a lot about, wanting to make sure that those 7 Saturdays are satisfied because of how much of a help it is and how much that community lives off of those Saturdays. But, in my mind, Corn, I still feel I don't want to say weird, but it makes me feel a tad uneasy that this game is still being played. Not me. I think that they have looked at everything. I think they've looked at everything and they've determined that is it raining in Columbia? It is not raining currently. We are getting some wind. We are getting some wind currently. See, it hasn't rained in Charleston. I've talked to David Shelton. I've had contact with others. Now, I did talk to someone in the PD area. They were getting some wind and rain. I think they've looked at this very closely and determined that the Clemson area is not going to be severely impacted by the storm in the early part of the afternoon. In terms of law enforcement security, of course, they have their own security people that work every game, so they will be available per normal. And as far as traffic control, yes, they're not using the highway patrol people. They are busy elsewhere, but they do have access to Pickens County, Oconee County, people around there that can help them deal with the traffic flow. And, you know, the Clemson fans have been through this before. They know how to behave when it comes to getting in and out of their parking lots and the fields up there in these situations. And they'll come early and they'll be mindful of the situation and they'll leave after the game. So I don't foresee any problem. I don't think anybody should feel uneasy. And if you want to go to the game, you shouldn't feel guilty about it because it's there. There's no reason to feel guilty about going to the game. You can't do anything about the storm anyway. And I'm sure at Clemson they're going to be taking up a variety of collections monetarily and maybe clothes, maybe water, maybe some food, whatever the case may be. If you want to donate something, so be it. So
I just don't
I say game on, and it's well covered by the Clemson people up there to pull this thing off because they're not going to face the situation that maybe Charleston or Columbia is going to face tomorrow afternoon.
I just don't like the message it sends.
What message is that?
They're sending a message that they think football is more important than the safety of South Carolinians.
Oh no! Come on, seriously?
I'm being completely serious.
They're not. Whose life are they risking?
People who were traveling to the games, possibly from the Midlands and elsewhere.
You don't have to go to the game. Just because they're playing, it doesn't mean you have to go. If you don't feel safe, you stay home or you stay wherever you've relocated to. You don't have to go to the game.
I mean, I'll tell Dan Radakovich myself. I don't agree with the decision.
You'll have that chance coming up in about 8 minutes.
I'm very
not
very
that it's
much
going to make any difference in anything.
It's not. I'm not saying. I'm far from the only person who feels uncomfortable about this game being played. Far from the only person.
That's fine.
In fact, you're the only one who I've heard is actually supportive of the fact that it's being played, other than the people who actually made the decision.
That's fine too. I happen to have my opinion in that direction, and that's fine. I don't understand why anybody would feel uncomfortable. If you're a media member and you're uncomfortable about going, then don't go. You know, you don't have to go unless your boss says you're going no matter what. And if you don't like that, you can quit. I mean, again, show me somebody who's got a gun to their head about going to this game. Can you show me one?
I can't show you someone who has a gun to their head going to this game. I just don't agree with the message it sends. I just don't.
Fine. That's fine. You have every right. Anyway, we'll have Dan Radakovich coming up in just a little bit, and we'll talk more about the top. We need to talk about the matchup between Clemson and Georgia Southern. I mean, we have pretty much overlooked the X's and O's of this game. But, you know, Georgia Southern is a team that's got a big offensive line. They run their option offense extremely well. They have a very talented, athletic quarterback. Is Clemson, you know, coming off the Texas A&M game, will they suffer a bit of an emotional letdown, considering the nature of the game, the nature of everything else going around? Are they going to have their focus and take care of business tomorrow?
Yeah, you wonder where the minds of the players are, especially with the distraction of the hurricane and all the stuff that's been leading up to this. But don't look at Georgia Southern's record last year and feel that is indicative of where this team is. This is a much improved football team. They kind of know what they're doing now offensively after some kind of offensive, basically. There was an offensive, I guess you could say, a fighting of sorts in there from that team last year. They kind of wanted to do one thing when they've already done something before that. But now they've kind of gotten themselves back on track under Chad Lunsford. They've got a very athletic quarterback in Shai Wertz, who is a South Carolina native. You know he's going to be motivated to try and come back here and prove some doubters wrong, people who didn't necessarily recruit him as a quarterback. And you think, too, from Georgia Southern's standpoint, this is their opportunity kind of to shine. I still think that Clemson doesn't feel like they represented themselves in the best way at Texas A&M. They kind of know that they got back off of I would say, kind of getting out the back door like a bandit, if you will, at Texas A&M. And in that regard, I think they want to show out very, very soundly after the way they played last week.
Well, Georgia Southern last beat an FBS opponent on the road in 2013. That team was Florida.
Yes.
That coach was Will Muschamp. So there is some state history there involved besides their years against Furman. All right, we'll be right back.
These guys, they never sleep. Check them out on the web at SportsTalkSC.com. Now, more of Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network.
We're back. We're back on Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, as we continue here on a Friday as we get you ready for the weekend of action here in the state. It's a paltry card, so to speak. Only one game in action. The athletic director in charge of making sure we have that one game is on the line with us now, Corn.
Indeed, and we appreciate Dan Radakovich joining us. Of course, we had Ray Tanner earlier in the week when he was forced to announce the cancellation of the Gamecocks game with Marshall. A busy time for him when he joined us. Equally busy time for Dan Radakovich and his staff as Dan joins us here on the opposite side of the spectrum because the Tigers are planning to play ball tomorrow noon against Georgia Southern. Dan, thanks for joining us. We do understand how busy you guys have been. Can you just sort of give us the background and the thinking by you and your folks about why it's okay and smart to continue and play this game on Saturday?
Sure. Well, thank you, Phil. Appreciate it. I mean, we have spent this entire week looking at different scenarios and certainly dealing with our university emergency preparedness area, our campus police, and a lot of other resources in looking at the opportunity to keep this game scheduled and making sure that the safety of our fans and student athletes from both universities is kept as a top priority. As we continue to move forward during the week, it was the idea of moving the game to noon was showed itself very, very early. So we did that, and we've continued to monitor the situation, and we feel that unless something very, very strange happens over the evening, we're going to be playing tomorrow at noon, and we've worked with all of the entities, all of our contracted folks that work a football game, from the ticket takers to the ushers to the folks in the parking lot to our concessions area, all have full or close to full staffs of individuals. We've been able to reach out to Georgia Southern and Georgia Tech, and they both were gracious enough to send us some additional police folks to supplement the group that we have on campus and in the surrounding areas. So we feel like we are covered in that area, albeit maybe not at full strength. So one of the things that we told our folks today in a couple of different correspondences to all of our season ticket holders and people who have purchased tickets to the game, arrive early. Understand that there may be some slower traffic than normal, and once the game is completed, we're going to ask everybody to leave the parking lot areas within a 2-hour period post game, so that that area can be cleared off. That we continue to receive information that rain and any other higher type wind circumstances will occur later on Saturday evening. So we still feel really good that we'll be able to get this game in.
All right. So the overwhelming material that you and your staff reviewed based on the weather forecast and the experts that you talked to there, the overwhelming information that you have is that in that window between, say, noon and 3:30, you guys should be clear enough to get this game in without any major issues. Would it be anything similar to Notre Dame a few years ago, you think, or much lighter than that?
No, the rainfall that we're looking at, and to be quite clear, Phil, it was really a time period from when people were arriving to the stadium in Clemson to the time when folks would be arriving back at their house. So the window we looked at was not just 12 to 3:15 or 3:30, whenever the game would be over, but really from 8 to about 5. And, understanding what would be going on, not only in Clemson, but 20 miles out, 40 miles out, 60 miles out, because we have about 60% of our season ticket holders are within 75 miles in the stadium. And that was something that we were able to create really good data associated with that. And how would those folks be affected both on their ride to campus and their ride back? And, we feel really good about that. There will be some rain during the game, but not anything like what we have seen, whether it was Georgia Tech last year or Notre Dame a couple of years before.
Talking with Dan Radakovich, Clemson's director of athletics. And Dan, you know, I have respect for you guys and your staff, and I know how difficult the call this must have been. But for those who might be looking at this particular decision and questioning the sensitivity, at least when you look at the other parts of our state and those who are suffering, how do you answer those who might be questioning the message that it sends by still playing this game in the face of what folks are seeing on the coast and possibly in the Midlands come tomorrow afternoon?
Well, first of all, our thoughts and prayers are with everybody who's affected by this storm, whether it's in North Carolina, South Carolina, anywhere along the coast. You know, we have a fairly large state from a geography perspective. We felt like it was with the resources that we were provided through the State Highway Patrol, and of course, many of those folks have been deployed, and rightfully so, to the affected areas. It did leave some personnel here because eventually Saturday evening into Sunday, this storm will hit up into our area. So there will be some personnel needed there. So putting all of these factors in, putting in all of the data, talking to a lot of people, and certainly the weather experts, we felt that this was something that we could do, something that we could do for the community and the students, the student athletes, and our visitors from Georgia Southern. I will tell you that the fact that Georgia Southern was busing here was also a major positive as it relates to this playing of the game. So, again, guys, this was not something that we did on a whim or anything that we didn't do without a lot of thought and data. And our president, Jim Clements, our board of trustees, our emergency management people around within our university took an awful lot of time. And this was not just an athletics decision. It was, obviously it's an athletic event, but there was, great community and community being the greater university input into making this decision. So
just to be clear, you are still going to be using members of the South Carolina Highway Patrol to staff your traffic flow and things of that nature?
There will be a few. There won't be anywhere near the number that we would normally have because they've been deployed, asked, and deployed. One of the things that I learned this week is, for people to be able to be deployed to that area, they need to be asked. Otherwise, as you guys might imagine, it would be chaos in that other area if everybody just showed up. So I'm sure the state, and I have great confidence in the Highway Patrol of the state, looked to see where they needed to deploy people. There were some that, as I said earlier, needed to stay here in this area, and we will utilize them for that short period of time, and then they will go on with their regular day.
Talking with Dan Redd, athletics director at Clemson. So to wrap it up, what kind of crowd are you expecting now? And, based on feedback you might be getting and understanding that, some people, because of the weather, won't be able to make it up or just, don't want to sit out in the rain, whatever rain there is. What kind of crowd are you guys expecting?
Well, I think it's really that's a great question, Phil. I'm not sure that we have a great handle on that, but in all of the information that we've sent out, we've said, make sure for all of our fans to, consider the travel both to Clemson and back to their home locations. Use good judgment. The game is on ESPNU and all of our local radio affiliates throughout the state. I'm sure just understanding the number of people that are part of our season ticket base are fairly close by. I'm sure we'll have a good crowd, but that's not important. I mean, what's important is for people to be safe and make good judgments as to whether or not they feel good in attending. Our students certainly are here on campus this weekend, so I'm sure they will have a great attendance as well. So we just are looking forward to tomorrow, making sure everybody gets to the game safely and gets home safely. That's our main concern.
Hey, Dan, thank you very much. We appreciate you taking time out for joining us this evening.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. Take care.
You got it. Thank you so much. Dan Radakovich, Clemson's athletic director. Agree or disagree? I mean, that's the logic behind what they are doing, and they feel confident about the decision they have made. So football will be on tomorrow at the Valley. We'll be back in a moment.
These guys,
Sports Talk on this Friday night. Phil Kornblut and Prince William Pelagic back at our studios in downtown Columbia. I'm not in the studios in downtown Columbia. I'm actually in the ATL tonight. Family business, but then over to Clemson tomorrow for the Tigers, Georgia Southern. I ain't letting a little something called Francis get in my way. Florence.
Florence.
A little something called Florence get in my way.
Flo is not somebody I'd want to tangle with.
Let's welcome in a couple of guys that know how to deal with hurricanes, hot air, and a lot of wind. We just lost, did we lose one or we lose both?
We lost them both, in fact.
Looks like we lost both. Well, we just have to reconnect. Perhaps maybe that was Flo getting back at us because
why did you have to go and say all those things about Flo and make that happen?
I agitated her. I was getting ready to praise the governor and lieutenant governor for their work in the past in dealing with these sort of things, these hurricanes and tropical storms and all that. But we will wait and see if we get them connected. We got the Lieutenant Governor Andre Bauer with us now. Lieutenant Governor, how are you?
Fabulous. From down here in Charleston, we say, "Stow it, Flo."
Wait a minute. You didn't evacuate? What the heck?
No, man, we're here.
Okay. All right, so you did not listen to the governor's warnings.
I did not. I listened to some of them.
That's not the best mess.
The hatches, and I prepared, and we decided we would watch and we would let the mass exodus happen. And then if it looked worse in the week, we would depart. There was no traffic on the road.
We have Governor Hodges now as well. Governor, how are you dealing with the impending storm coming our way? Where are you?
I'm doing great. Actually, I'm not back in the Carolinas yet. I'm still in Pittsburgh, but I'm heading back home sometime, probably shortly after the storm subsides.
Yeah. Well, I'd have to say this about this is not a political statement, guys, but I mean, I think from my position, it looks like the State House folks, the governor's mansion folks have handled things pretty well. They've been out in front of this storm every step of the way, Governor Hodges.
You know, the key is always no loss of life and trying to limit people being in harm's way. So I'm really pleased that people work very well together and trying to make that happen.
But Governor Hodges, would you like to lecture Lieutenant Governor Bauer, for staying behind in Charleston and not listening to the warnings?
Well, he's demonstrating his toughness. I think Andre's just showing his toughness.
Is that toughness or obstinance, Governor?
Well, Charleston's a pretty safe place, it sounds like. So maybe a little of both. How about that?
Andre, what are y'all getting down there right now?
Gusts of up to 15 miles an hour.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah, it's nice and sunny. I cut the grass today. Got a little bit of wind. We dropped temperature about 5 degrees, about 66% humidity, but and we don't have any problem finding a parking place today.
We can hardly fly a kite in 15-mile-an-hour winds. Whoever's got the background noise there, tell them to hush up for just a minute while we can get our picks clearly there. So, all right, let's get to it. Glad you guys are safe. Glad everything is well up in Pittsburgh and down in Charleston. Let's see. Last week, Andre, you went 4-1. Another victorious week for you. You are 6-4. Governor Hodges, you were a winner, 3-2. Makes you 4-6 on the season. So, Governor Hodges, since you are trailing, we'll let you lead to get things rolling tonight. That sound good?
Sounds good to me. Ready to go.
All right, let's get at it. We begin with Ohio State at TCU. The Horned Frogs getting 12.5 points. That kind of is a head-scratcher to me. Governor Hodges, what do you think?
Yeah, it's a head-scratcher to me, too. I think the Ohio State quarterback is outstanding, but 12.5 points in Dallas is an awful lot for a team where Gary Patterson coaches their defense. So I'm going to take the points in the Horned Frogs.
Okay. Lieutenant Governor Bauer, what do you think?
I'm going to be on the other side of that. I'm going to take Ohio State. They're still a strong team, and even on the road, I think they'll pull it off and be able to cover the spread.
This is a fan of Urban Meyer, are you?
Well, this is them without Urban Meyer still. It's their last game without him.
Yeah, I know, but still, he still oversees the program from afar.
And they still got a deep, deep bench, and they got a strong team. And 12.5 is a lot to cover on the road, but I think they're that good a team.
All right. Andre, Alabama at Ole Miss, and the home team here, which has been impressive so far. They scored a bunch of points, but they haven't played a team like Alabama. They're getting 21.
You know, I think I got to go with Ole Miss on that. As strong as Alabama is, and there is no question they are the best team in the country, 21 points on the road against Ole Miss. I think I'm going to take Ole Miss in the points.
You got them, Governor.
I remember how bad Ole Miss got beat by Alabama last year, and that is enough for me to pick Alabama. I'm going to take them.
Yeah. I always feel uneasy when I pick against Alabama, points-wise or not. Just hard to do. But I think I will take Ole Miss. On my sheet, I'm taking the points here. Will, what do you think?
Yeah, I think Ole Miss is not going to make this one, boys.
I have Ole Miss in the points myself as well, Corn, just because of the fact that I think Ole Miss's offense will at least keep them closer than 21.
Yeah, I agree. Let's go to another SEC West battle. LSU at Auburn, and the home team is favored by 10.5. Governor Hodges, how do you see this? Tigers versus Tigers?
I see this one under 10.5 points. I think it's going to be a lot closer. LSU's played pretty well, and Auburn has too, but I think it's going to be under a touchdown. So I'll take the points in LSU.
Okay. Andre, what do you think?
I think the Governor's spot on. I'll take LSU in the points as well.
One LSU in the points as well. Okay. So far we have differed on 2. We've agreed on 1. We go to Florida State at Syracuse. The Qs, the orange, got a big-time offense, it looks like, in Florida State. Basically, frankly, has just stunk this season. And the Qs getting 3 at home. And let's see, this would be Andre. What do you think?
Oh, gosh, I can't. Both of them don't do anything for me, but I'm going to take Florida State. They looked terrible last week, but I'm still going to go with Florida State over Syracuse.
Governor?
I'm going to take the other side of that one. Florida State has just been dreadful, and Syracuse is pretty good offensively, and they're playing at home. So I'm going to take Syracuse.
Good pick, Governor. Good pick.
Yeah, I kind of like the orange in the points too. Up there, the place should be packed.
To heck with that, Corn. I think they're going to win outright.
Oh, really? You don't want the points?
No, Syracuse is getting Syracuse is a home underdog. Yes.
Yeah, they're getting 3. You don't want the 3 points. You're just saying they'll beat them.
I think
without the 3.
I think they'll win.
Yeah, just flat out win. Yeah. Okay. All right. That takes us to the noon game at Death Valley. Georgia Southern at Clemson. Be careful here, Tigers. This is sort of a letdown situation for you, coming off that win on the road last week at Texas A&M. Clemson has not covered in their 2 games thus far, by the way, guys. They are laying 33, Governor Hodges, against the once led by Irk Russell Eagles of Georgia Southern.
Well, in memory of ball-headed Irk, I'm going to take the Eagles. I think Clemson's going to handily win this game. They'll win it by probably 4 touchdowns, but 33 points is just too many. So I'll take the points in Georgia Southern.
Andre.
I kind of feel the same way. It's not a big game for them. This will be a game where they get to play a lot of folks and get ready for a conference game. 33 points, I don't think this is anybody they care about running the score up on. And I'd rather have Georgia Southern with the points as well.
Yeah, 33 is a lot, even though it's Clemson, that explosive offense. I kind of agree with you in taking those points in Georgia Southern, Will.
I like Clemson, honestly.
Covering?
I like Clemson to cover.
Tigers just don't strike me as being all that interested in covering. You know, win the game, move on. Win the game, move on.
I think they're going to want to run it up. I think they have a little. They feel like they could have acquitted themselves better against Texas A&M. I think they have something to prove.
Guys, a chance for amendments here. Andre, any change?
I think the governor gave a very persuasive argument on Alabama, and my little buddy Hudson here tells me
I'm telling him to switch to Alabama.
So Hudson tells me I better switch to Alabama, so I'm going to go with Alabama. I think the governor was right on that, thinking this through. 21 points, a lot of points on the road, but I still think I'm going to take Alabama.
Oh, a late switch. Governor, you good with yours?
I'm good with mine. I'm going to stick with the picks.
Thank you, guys. Have a great weekend. Be safe, and we'll talk to you next week. That's the Football Filibuster on Sports Talk.
Time to put your money where your mouth is. Put them in the field, let them fight it out. He's a hustler. If you don't got cash, you won't be getting no stamps. And if you don't got money, you want some money. If you don't got cash, you won't be getting no. He's a gambler. Let the house running young and then we got paid.
Show them the next item up a bit.
Those are the words.
Sorry.
Go ahead. Those are the words that we usually lead into Lee Sterling of our Sterling picks from ParamountSports.com. Corn.
Yes, sorry about that. I was so excited to have Lee with us, and I jumped the gun. Good to have Lee with us once again for our professional help here on Sports Talk. Everybody, of course, needs professional help from time to time, and Lee delivers for us. And I know he's in a good spot down there in South Florida. No weather worries for you, my friend.
Yeah, but I've been through it before. You know, I have a daughter who's up in Winston-Salem, and I'll probably end up relocating there eventually. But my heart goes out to all the people who are going through tough times, just hoping everything turns out okay.
Indeed, indeed. Well, I think things right now are a little brighter than projected, but it's still a little bit of a ways to go with this thing. Let's get to your business. And first of all, tell folks what you got on special and where to go to get it.
Well, we've started off the year. We've won both weeks in the football, and our biggest plays also are 30 to 35 unit plays we put out so far are 4-0, so we feel good about that. We'll have 2 more of those, and for the first time this year, we don't put out many 40 to 50 unit plays. We're going to have our first 40 to 50 unit play. It's an underdog. We call it our underdog shocker, so we're going to look to hit that game. I think we've got a great situational play, great matchup. Weather looks good. It's not being played in the Carolinas or Texas. And we're 33-12 on those games going back over the last 10 years. So if they want to get involved normally, they've got to be a seasoned subscriber to get the 40 to 50 unit plays. But we're going to open it up. You can get 3 weeks of games, and it will include everything I got those 3 weeks, including this game. It's going to be probably 12, 13 games this weekend. Just go to ParamountSports.com. Use coupon code SAVE200. Brings the 3-week price down to $297. ParamountSports.com.
All right, let's get to the games that you want to talk
about.
Oh,
wait, we're going to have to make a little change, guys. Those South Carolina Marshall games. So let's do Auburn, LSU, Clemson, Georgia Southern, and let's add a pro game. Let's add the Falcons and Carolina. Okay.
That's well, you've already got the Falcons.
Well, that was our game of the week. We'll give that. We'll go over that one, and then we'll give away the Green Bay Minnesota is our game of the week.
There you go. That's the one. Of course, can you do that game not knowing if Rodgers is going to be available?
Oh, I think he's playing. He might hop around and play on one leg, but he's playing.
Well, from what I saw the other night, Rodgers on one leg is much better than Kaiser on 3 legs. Okay.
Right.
So please, if there is a supreme being, let's let Aaron Rodgers play on Sunday, just to make me happy. So let's go to your Auburn LSU thoughts, and Auburn with your information here laying 9.
Yeah, and I thought when this game came out, I thought they'd probably line this game at 6.5 to 7. I think they're throwing some bait at you. They want you to take LSU at 9.5 points, but I'm not taking the bait here. Joe Burrow, he didn't show anything in that Miami game. He only threw for 158 yards. I think 5 years from now, if you ask someone who was the quarterback for the LSU team in 2018, they probably won't even be able to remember it. Rather unremarkable. On the other hand, Jarrett Stidham, I think he's going to have some success against this LSU secondary. I think his offensive line is going to give him time, and I don't know if Joe Burrow's going to have that time going against that Auburn defensive line. Also, got a situation, LSU's already lost 2 starters since the start of the year. Auburn's looking for revenge for last year's 27-23 game. The loss in Baton Rouge just got away from them, and the host is 8-1 against the spread in the series. I like Auburn here. They double up LSU 28-14.
Ooh.
Yep.
And make a little noise in the West as, they've got their own eyes on the crown again in the West. Clemson, 34 is what you've got. Clemson laying 34 against Georgia Southern. Trap game for the Tigers or fully focused and ready to play?
Well, it might be a trap game.
there was plenty of times in that game last week where, they're up by double digits or 7 points. They're about to put it away and just couldn't find that one play. And give, Texas A&M some credit. And I don't think Clemson played their best game, but this is a game here. You're playing an option offense, a triple option. Usually means less possessions, usually less total points in games. The Eagles have trouble. Their offensive guards are weak. So they got to try to stop the penetration. Clemson's got bigger fish to fry. They get Georgia Tech up next and Syracuse revenge in 2 weeks. The quarterback rotation continues for Clemson. Probably not a good thing. Eagles return 9 on offense, 9 on defense, and they looked improved in the win over UMass last week. I think Georgia Southern will probably score a backdoor touchdown. Clemson wins 42-14, but Georgia Southern covers.
Yeah. Tigers 0-2 against the spread so far this year. Kind of the same thing against Furman. I mean, it was a big win, but just not enough to cover. And, of course, last week they scraped by against A&M, and they were laying 12 there. So, sometimes you have these really good teams, but they're not a safe bet in terms of laying the points.
No, you get teams that get up big, and they start rotating in some second and third string players, and you want to play as many guys. You factor in that the new redshirt rule. I think it's going to be a big factor. I don't think you're going to see as many blowouts as in the past.
That's an excellent point. All right, and let's get to your NFL game of the week, or one of them now. Atlanta here in Atlanta, favored by 6 against the Panthers. Is the wrong team favored here?
Yeah, I think it could be. I'm watching this Atlanta offense, and I watched their red zone plays again a second time in that opening week game, and I don't think it was Matt Ryan. There just wasn't anyone open. So problem here is the plays by Steve Sarkisian. They went from first the year before in scoring to 15th, and I don't think there's any quick fix. Now you're without Devonta Freeman. You're without your best 2 players on defense, and even though Carolina didn't score a lot, I thought I liked the way that Norv Turner worked in Christian McCaffrey and used his talents. Cam Newton seems happy, and that's important. He doesn't seem happy too often. He's a tough guy to please, but I do think the wrong team is favored. I like Carolina here, 23-17.
Wow, to get off to a 2-0 start, including a win in Atlanta and a win at home over the Cowboys, that would bode well for the Panthers.
Yeah. So the game of the week is going to be Green Bay laying 1 right now. That's the line. I do think that Aaron Rodgers is going to play. If he plays, I'm sure we'll get a couple shots at Danica Patrick up in the box.
What's wrong with that?
No, it's great. It's more reason to watch. So, my dad used to rate movies. He used to say it's a 4-star, and I said I don't see a 4-star by the ratings. He says if it's got violence, sex, it had all 4 different elements. It's automatically a 4-star movie. So
yeah. The NFL needs to do whatever it can to get those ratings back up.
Oh yeah, doesn't hurt. And also you got the fact that Aaron Rodgers was knocked out in Week 6 by the Vikings on a cheap shot. So a lot of things going on here. You literally have 3 games that would be the best game on any weekend. Atlanta, Carolina, that game, also New England, Jacksonville. So maybe the best NFL card of the year. They can all get it. Like I said, just call me 800-400-9741. We'll give you that game for free. It should be a great game, Green Bay, Minnesota. And if you want to hop on board, just go to ParamountSports.com and use coupon code SAVE200 and start winning today.
Surprised Lee wasn't high on my Jets after they play Miami coming up this weekend, obviously.
I want to stay away from that game. Might be a 13-10 game. Could get ugly.
See?
With the new quarterback, Chubby?
Oh,
Chubby
fat face. My fat face quarterback. Nothing but respect for my fat face quarterback.
Lee, we thank you. Have a great weekend. Good luck. Hope it goes well. If it goes well for you, it goes well for everybody. We'll talk to you next week. All right, Lee Sterling, his Sterling picks with us here on Sports Talk. What a busy first hour. We still have recruiting coming up in the next hour. David Shelton on the high schools, and you have a special visitor as well.
Opposition research on Georgia Southern. Danny Reed joins us next on Sports Talk.
Round 2 of Sports Talk up next with your hosts Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. Don't leave us hanging. Join the show, 800-956-7266.
Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network as we continue on a Friday. We get you ready for the weekend. Was only one game in town, Clemson and Georgia Southern, and the Eagles come to town in Clemson. Georgia Southern coming off of a 2-10 year last year, but through the opening portion of this year, they are 2-0 with wins over South Carolina State and UMass. So a much improved ball club. The man who is the radio voice of the Georgia Southern Eagles is Danny Reed, a familiar voice around these parts. If you are from the Low Country and heard him as not only the voice of the Citadel, but the voice of the Charleston River Dogs. Danny, have you done the Charleston and Statesboro yet all night long? And are they giving you funny looks for it?
I've smartly not pulled out any dance moves, and I've been here for just over 3 years now. I think it's going to take something really, really special to get me to dance, maybe even a win over Clemson on Saturday if this game still gets played. I think the indications are that it is. But if the Eagles can pull it off, who knows? I may break out a jig. You never know.
It's a very interesting ball club. Obviously, they are very, very deeply rooted in running the option. Second year under Chad Lunsford. What can you tell us about this Eagles club that is improved from last year, as I said before?
Yeah, the 18-game experiment under Tyson Summers just didn't work. You had two different offensive systems, and nothing just seemed to click. The defense, I think, got taxed. They actually weren't as bad as they got billed for. They gave up a lot of big plays because it seemed that the offense just could not keep itself from getting 3-and-outs or ultimately punting. So the defense was one of the worst in the country a year ago, giving up big plays. The final straw was up at UMass, losing 55-20. It was an 0-6 start. That had never happened in the modern era. Summers was axed. Lunsford was promoted. A lot of people thought that he would be the guy to get the opportunity because he had been here for 9 years under 4 different head coaches. You could see the improvements right away, even though the wins didn't come. The team was 0-9 going into that South Alabama game on senior day, and that's when it just all kind of came together, and the Eagles were able to unleash about 2 years' worth of frustrations on the Jaguars, winning that game 52-0. A really nice send-off for a small senior class. And the next week you get to go to Louisiana Lafayette and win a road game. So you saw that the talent was there and the ability to get them to play a certain way was there. And then you got into the offseason where he was able to put his own staff together, his own plan, his own way of doing things. They got the best recruiting class in the history of the school, the top overall recruit in the conference, in defensive end Quinn Williams out of Morgan County, who hasn't even played a snap yet. We'll have to see if he does this year. Early returns this year are that the offense has smoothed itself out. It's a throwback to the Willie Fritz offense of 14 and 15. Bob DeBest was under Coach Fritz at Sam Houston when they went to back-to-back FCS national championship games, and there's just a more of a comfort level. I think the offensive line is finding a way to click. They weren't healthy for much of camp, and now that they are, and that rotation goes about 8 guys deep. Defensively moving to the 3-4 under Scott Sloan, who was here for 4 years under Mike Seawalk, but spent the last 8 at App State, one of Georgia Southern's chief rivals. He and Coach Lunsford have been friends for a very long time, and I think if Chad ever got an opportunity, that was going to be his first call to be a D coordinator. Moving to the 3-4 has been really beneficial to the talent pool that they have, and they've been able to keep everything in front. They've been able to stop the run, and they're playing very fast, which has been a key because for the last 2 years, it just seemed like both sides of the ball were playing very uncertain. But now that they're playing with speed and they're enjoying it, you're seeing how much better the team can be.
Voice of Georgia Southern, Danny Reed, joining us here on Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Clemson and Georgia Southern playing at noon. Shai Werts, quarterback out of Newberry right here in the state. Someone, of course, who has a lot of notoriety here in the state. What can you tell me about his development now as Georgia Southern's quarterback?
Well, we knew that he was recruited pretty heavily by a couple of schools in the Palmetto State. I know that South Carolina wanted him as a wide receiver and a kick returner. Ironically, the guy that recruited him was current Georgia State head coach Sean Elliott. But Clemson wanted him as well. They offered him as an athlete, I think is the way Dabo put it in his presser earlier this week. Brent Venables thought he might be able to use him as a defensive back, but he praised him for how well he has run the spread option this year. It's Georgia Southern slant on a gun triple option scheme. They'll do some pistol things. They'll do a little bit out of the flex. But for Shai to make the strides that he has in his third year here, he did redshirt in 2016. So technically he's working with his third offense in 3 years. But the comfort level, the savvy, and the poise really stick out. he's done it both ways the first 2 games of the season. South Carolina State, he ran for 163 and 3 scores, and then last week he completed 6 of 9 passes for 154 and 2 more scores. So he has shown the ability to throw the football, which you've got to be able to do even if you're a run-first team. And, of course, he's got the great feet and the escapability. I think he's second nationally in rushing yards for a quarterback behind Navy starting quarterback, which them, Army, and Air Force are always going to be at the top of the list anyway. But just 2 games in, we can really see and feel how much better he has gotten and how much of a leader he has become. It seems the offense follows him, and so far that's been a very good thing.
What would you say the percentage of run to pass is for him?
So far through 2 games, I think the Eagles have been almost 90% run, 10% pass. I think that in a perfect world, they'd want to throw the ball a little bit more, but with as effective as the running game has been, going for well over 300 yards each game, there's no need to fix what isn't broken just yet.
Looking, of course, at the Georgia Southern Eagles, getting ready for their game against Clemson, studying the defense, some shorter corners. Obviously, that's going to be a real tall task for them as they go up against guys like T. Higgins and Justin Ross and players of that nature. How do you expect Georgia Southern to kind of tangle with these very tough physical receivers that Clemson will bring to the table?
It's a secondary that is very experienced and a secondary that has gotten a lot better over the last couple of years. Ironically, both corners got their seasoning mid-season and were able to start in their freshman year. For someone like Monquavian Brinson, he took over that field corner. Now he's the boundary corner, matching up against the top receiver from the other squad. And then for Vildor, he was more of a supplementary player. His first year, he was more of a nickelback in Georgia Southern's 4-2-5 scheme when Zoe Costantini was here. But middle of last year, he took over the starting corner spot. And he has played so well. They're both tough. They make what they don't have in frontline speed, I think they make up for by being able to read body posture, how a receiver may go. They're really good at playing the football without interfering. Georgia Southern hasn't been called for a PI yet, and probably see a couple of them on Saturday now that I bring that up. But even the safeties, Josh Moon has been a 3-year starter, preseason All-League guy, an honor roll guy. He's been waiting for a chance to be a leader. And Sean Freeman is somebody who has seen starting time the last 2 years. He's even said that being a safety in this defense is a little bit better. You don't have to worry necessarily so much about spotting an individual guy, but being able to play downhill and play fast. He's more of the hitter, and he's played very well so far as well. It'll be a challenge, but I think that it's one that those 4 guys in the back that they're looking forward to.
Georgia Southern in a similar boat that Coastal Carolina is, Danny. Of course, looking at entering the FBS. This is the 5th season for the Eagles in FBS. Give some hope to those of a Coastal persuasion that this is a move that, very similarly to Coastal's, that can actually pay itself off.
Well, that's just the thing. If you want a case study about how it can go completely in just a couple of years, look at Georgia Southern. First 2 years, winning a league title, going 8-0 in 2014, going to a bowl game in year 2, and the last 2 years, with relative to the history of the program, it being pretty much rock bottom. A 2-10 season was the worst that Georgia Southern's ever had. But now you've got the feeling, I know it's only 2 games in, but the feeling around the program is just so much different. There's actually been quite a few comparisons between Coach Lunsford and Coach Sweeney, the way that they have created their programs around the idea of football is awesome, but football is not everything. They're both family men. They're both deeply rooted in their faith, and they both love their catchphrases. They both have built programs in very atypical ways. They were never coordinators before becoming head coaches, and I think it does give hope to programs that are trying to make the move up, like a Coastal Carolina. I mean, Georgia Southern saw that last year as poorly as Coastal did overall with that 9-game losing streak, but they went out to Idaho. They won, and then even with Jamie Chadwell stepping in for Joe Moglia, they pounded Georgia Southern up in Myrtle Beach last year. I know the Eagles took the lead in the 3rd quarter of that game, but Coastal was in control of that game. They ran the football. They had 2 long touchdowns, and now that they've got Coach Moglia back, he runs his program differently as well. It's not so much a football team as it is a business application of how athletics can go. He's extremely successful in anything that he touches, and I think that not only is Georgia Southern going to be on its way back, but I think Coast is a program that has a chance to do extremely well with location and now being at the highest level. I think that's somebody you got to watch too.
Danny Reed, we'll appreciate having you at least for a day back at the Palmetto State. Travel safe. Love talking with you.
Thanks, Will. Appreciate it, man.
A check-in on the high schools next with David Shelton on Sports Talk.
These guys, they never sleep. Check them out on the web at SportsTalkSC.com. Now, more of Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network.
We're back on Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network as we continue here on a Friday. We're brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union. Relax at Founders Federal Credit Union. It's all about you when it comes to your financial needs. Founders always thinks member and takes great pride in offering its members the most innovative products and services. Go to relaxjoinfounders.com to see if you qualify for membership. No high school action tonight in the state, but we have some earlier in this week. And David Shelton from the High School Sports Report and the Charleston Post and Courier is on to review that.
Indeed he is. How are things in Charleston, David?
It finally started raining at my house. I just had some great Chinese food backed up by some banana pudding.
Oh.
So it's going to be an early night.
A rare early night for you.
Yeah, on a Friday, I don't even know what to do. That's why, I had Chinese and I had banana pudding, and I'm like, you know what? This is good hurricane food. I mean, I think I've started something. But it is windy and it is raining, and but we're going to be okay where I'm at. I'm sure I may lose power, but that's normal.
Yeah, you'll find someone to cuddle up next to and take care of you. That'd be good.
No, that's not going to happen.
Well, before we talk about the games that were played Wednesday and Thursday, there weren't many. What's going to happen down the road? Because we are going to have issues with school and some flooding and not being able to practice, and future games not being able to be played. What do you think the high school league's going to do with this?
Well, this is going to be interesting because half the state played Wednesday and Thursday. From the Midlands up, everybody played their game that was supposed to be played tonight. From there down, all along the Grand Strand, Florence, PD, down around Beaufort, Charleston, nobody played. Well, the way this storm has reacted, I mean, it is possible that a lot of the teams that did not play will be able to play early next week, but the teams that played last night and Wednesday may be underwater. I heard where Sorrel was expecting 16 inches of rain. I mean, if it rains 16 inches, they're not practicing before Wednesday or Thursday, so they won't play. Now, we don't know what it's all going to come down to, but you've got an interesting dynamic because half the state played their game. They're going to say, well, we don't want to push the season back a week, but all the people that didn't play are going to want to push it back. And it's going to come down to region play. When does a lot of teams did not, only one region or two regions was playing region play this week, but everybody, over the next 2 weeks it starts. Those games are obviously more important. Yeah, would I like to see Fort Dorchester and Berkeley play? Of course. I'm a high school football fan. They're two of the better teams in the state, but that game doesn't mean anything. So they could easily just throw that out. I know for Berkeley, they would love to have that gate, but high school league may say, if y'all can figure out a way to play by Tuesday night, play, and then you can play your next game on Saturday, and then you catch up. But I think the way this storm tracked, it's going to cause. I think I originally said a couple days ago the high school league wasn't going to do anything. This may change things now. You may see the season extended a week, but you know what? They may just tell the schools. Honestly, they may just say, "Hey, if y'all can play your game, play it. If you don't, just play Friday night or do whatever. Leave it up to them." They have done that before.
Mm-hmm. Another wrinkle in all of this, as we look down the road, and no way to know right now what's going to happen, but we had Ray Tanner on with us earlier in the week, and of course they had to cancel their game with Marshall. And if they don't reschedule a game during the regular season now, and Will Muschamp is not in favor of that because he doesn't want to play 10 games in a row, so he doesn't want to put a game in their current off week. They're looking at playing at home on December 1st if they're not in the SEC championship game that day, which, of course, is the date of the state championship games as scheduled now in Williams-Brice. But then again, if things are delayed a week with the high school league, you could see them having to play their state championship games on the 8th, the following weekend.
Correct. You could have that, or you could not that this is. I mean, this is just throwing this out there. play on that Sunday. Either play South Carolina, let South Carolina play on Sunday, or let the high schools play on Sunday. But that is a lot on that field. I don't know how that's going to work out. But obviously, with South Carolina not being able to play tomorrow, that date does loom large what they decide to do, because they're going to do what's best for them. They're not going to worry about the high schools, and nor should they. You can push it back a week or move the games. Just don't play at South Carolina.
Maybe they can get Beyonce and Jay-Z to donate them another new field to get that ready. No?
Well, yeah.
Too soon? Too soon?
All right, David, let's talk about some of the games that were played. There were some good matchups. You mentioned mostly in the upstate, not a whole lot around the Midlands that I can see, but mostly in the upstate. And as I look at the scores that we do have for the games played Wednesday, Thursday, that South Point Greenville game, great game, 28-27. The Stallions win it. Greenville showing its merit. Good team at Greenville. South Point, great team last year, won a state championship, already has a loss this year. Struggled here to win or pulled out a win, had to get a stop at the very end, stopped a 2-point conversion. So, first of all, what do you think about the win? But what does it say about the Stallions this year? Are they what they have been in recent years?
Well, I think you could read into it that they are a little susceptible. They did lose the game and nearly, but I mean, Greenville scored on the last play of the game and then went for 2 to try to sneak a win out of there. But Greenville played with South Point. I think that's key for Greenville more than it is an indictment of South Point. I think for Greenville, who lost a lot of players, to go to the South Point and match them physically, I think that's going to bode well for Greenville going in the play. You may see these two teams play again in the playoffs. I still, think Greer is maybe the team that could beat South Point in a one game, play for the upper state or whatever. I think Greer might be the best team other than South Point in the upper state, but South Point certainly susceptible. I mean, gosh, when you lose as much as they lost, it's kind of selfish thinking to think it's just going to roll over people, and that's just not going to be the case. They're going to win a lot of games, but they're not going to beat people 56-7 like they did.
Yeah. What about a couple of other games from the upstate? Your thoughts on Burns beating Spartanburg and what that means for both of those teams, and also in that area, Dorman with a touchdown win over Hillcrest.
Well, I think the Burns win is a solid victory, and I think Spartanburg has got issues that they have not solved. They look so good in the opener against Greer, and then they just haven't played well. They just haven't played well since. And from what I understand, didn't look great, last night against Burns. Burns has improved, and Burns is pretty good, but, Spartanburg's not used to getting beat by 3 touchdowns by Burns or by anybody. And then, Dorman needed a test, and I felt like Hillcrest could give them a test because of their quarterback and receiver, and they both had Colin Wakefield and Will Watts both had great games, but Dorman kind of needed that push, and they got it, and it just shows how good Dorman is. Hillcrest is a good football team. I mean, they were both in the top 10. It's not like Hillcrest was coming in there as a team with no respect. They were both ranked in the top 10. So that's a good win for Dorman. And then, you still look forward to Dorman Gaffney, Dorman Fern. I mean, there's going to be some great games in that region over the next 4 or 5 weeks.
All right, and let's give a shout-out to Travelers Rest, still undefeated, beat Blue Ridge 44-16. What about Wren shutting out Clinton big, 45-0? Wren's undefeated.
Yeah, and Clinton's not great, but they're no slouch, and for them to give up 45 points kind of shows that Wren's offense. I mean, Jeff Tate just keeps putting it together every year. Normally, Wren doesn't play great defense, but last night they pitched a shutout, so they must be for real.
Hey, David, thank you, my man. Enjoy the weekend. Get some rest. We'll talk to you next week. Much more football ahead. David Shelton with us here on Sports Talk. And a reminder, we do have our high school scoreboards tonight. We go over all the scores. More comments from David, 10 o'clock, 10:30, and 11. If you want to hear more about high school football, catch those scoreboards a little bit later on tonight. The full Monty on NASCAR as we continue on a Friday.
The latest on this weekend's race is around the corner. The full Monty on NASCAR is next. This is Sports Talk.
We are forward and the top 16 are set.
Yes, it's time for the postseason of NASCAR. Couldn't get here fast enough, and it is here now. Though I thought, as we welcome in Monty Dutton, the full Monty on NASCAR, you can catch his stuff on his blog website at montydutton.com. That's MONTE Dutton.com. Glad we can have him on live tonight because there's no high school football for him to cover. So we had a pretty good finish there at Indianapolis last week, and following up on a good race at Darlington. So from a racing standpoint, Monty, there's some momentum of quality racing going into the postseason here.
Yes, there is momentum. I think that the interesting factor right now is that Brad Keselowski has won 2 straight races after not winning all year. Not only that, but the biggest gripe on Keselowski is that he's won, I don't know, I think it's maybe 26 now. He's won all these races, but he's never won a big one. So now he's won 2 straight big ones. So I wonder if right now we have a big 4 instead of a big 3, and then or maybe we have a big 3, and perhaps with all the adversity facing the reigning champion Martin Truex. I mean, you know, he'll be fine this year. He'll probably drive with Gibbs, but I just wonder if he's sort of languished lately in a state of disarray that's quite understandable. And so maybe the big 3 is now Harvick, Busch, and Keselowski.
Yeah, you can't overlook Keselowski the way he's running right now. I want to go back to Truex because we really haven't had a chance to get your opinion on that situation since the news came out. I guess it was earlier this month. So, yeah, so a reigning championship team is shutting down. I know that organization out in Denver, did as much as they could for as long as they could, and got help from other teams that helped them get to a championship level. But I mean, that's a sad turn of events for NASCAR to lose a quality ownership and a team out there in the western part of the United States.
Well, I think that I think it's a consequence, sort of a consequence of it said, because that team started. A lot of teams start up. There are a lot of them now that try to be upwardly mobile and work their way up. And most of them, finally give up because they can't, all these teams that crop up. Barney Visser had a 1-car team and put his own money, and he raised it up by its bootstraps, and he got some assistance from Toyota, which brought him assistance from Joe Gibbs Racing. But when you rise up like that, all of a sudden you have an operation that takes a lot more money to run. It's a consequence of your success. And so instead of him being able to finance his team with his furniture factory, he needs major sponsorship, and he's lost his major sponsorship. And so, he could keep that team running if it had the budget of 5 years ago, but he wouldn't be a champion right now if he had. But I think that it's sort of a perfect storm there. I think there's a lot of uncertainty because this is a road course that has been fashioned that snakes through the infield. And Charlotte has used such a course in the past, but not lately. This one is pretty much an original creation, and I'm sure they relied on a lot of people. But it hasn't, in practice sessions, it hasn't exactly met with rave reviews. So as best I can tell from what people say, there could be a lot of attrition and crashes, and the place doesn't have enough room to suit a lot of drivers through the infield. So it could be a fairly cataclysmic event. It could, shake up the playoffs. And so it is very interesting, but I think it's probably not going to be mediocre. It's either going to be the rage, and they're going to start at other tracks have 2 races, one of them on the road course, or maybe right on the road course in Indianapolis. Gosh knows they got plenty of room for it there. But I think it's either going to be a debacle or a big success. It won't be in between, in my opinion. Well, I don't. I haven't driven around the damn thing. I can't tell you my own expertise, but just from what I hear, there's a lot of sort of what's that term from the old Hunter Thompson? Fear and loathing about this race. Well, that's right, and that comes from the. I actually read that book long before the movie was made.
The full Monty on NASCAR. Monty Dutton visiting with us here on this Friday edition of Sports Talk as we hit the playoff stage of the NASCAR season. And as you look ahead to Vegas, explain to me one thing. Maybe I should know this. Maybe I shouldn't know it. I don't know. It really doesn't matter, I don't think. But Kyle Busch is ranked number 1 among your playoff contenders, and Kevin Harvick number 2. But they both have 2,050 points. Harvick had one more win than Busch did. They both had 50 playoff points. Why is Busch listed number 1 and Harvick number 2? Is there a reason for that? Does it matter?
I wish that I knew the answer to that, and I would ask you, Phil, because I don't really know. I'm trying to think. It could be that bonus points for the chase. It could be that the tiebreaker is not most wins, that is bonus points in the season, stage points or something like that.
Okay.
It could be that. Well, okay, I tried to pull that out of my rear and I failed. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, you could do what I'm going to do when I get off of being embarrassed on the radio. You could go look it up.
Not that big a deal to have to waste the time on it. So tell us, as far as Vegas is concerned, the tire combination that Goodyear normally uses there and the setup that the crew chiefs like to go with, what's the norm there for Vegas that makes a car go fast?
Vegas is shaped like Charlotte and Texas, Atlanta, but it is flatter. Bruton renovated that track, but he didn't build it. And so it was much more lightly banked. And so it's a little bit of a hybrid between, a somewhat flat track, like a lightly banked track. It's not as high banked. I think Charlotte's 22 degrees and Vegas is down to, 16, 18 in that area. I'm about to be corrected again. But it's not, when you're there, it's a little bit flatter, and it's not going to be as much, it's not as fast a track as some of the other mile and a halves.
Any news?
In my estimation, it's probably a little bit boring because of that.
Yeah. And any news coming out of the practice leading up to the qualifying runs this afternoon? Anybody hit the wall? Anything of significance?
I had that on TV, but I was doing something that's a new novelty in my life since I do work, and I work extensively for the local website. I've been writing about things like storms and obituaries today. Had it on TV, but I didn't pick up a lot. I think my pick is the local boy Bush has only won there once, and so it's about time for him to, he has a flair for the dramatic, and I think at Vegas, at his hometown, I think he very much wants to make a stand, and he's got the talent to do it.
All right, Monty. Thank you, man. Have a great weekend. We'll be right back.
Oh, man. This is getting me feeling like we're not about to face a tropical storm, Corn. I love this music.
Well, good. I think that when you get home tonight, you should, put the old album on and sit back and
little vinyl,
have something refreshing to drink and enjoy the tunes.
Little vinyl
yes,
action.
Considering you don't have a football game to cover this weekend.
Listen, why do you sound so bitter about that? Why do you sound so bitter?
I'm happy for me. I'm glad I've got a football game to go to. I am happy for me.
You know what? I'm gonna get a taste of the Professor Tom Hayes life in the Barca Lounger. Watch it from all points. Get a whole bunch of games up on one screen and just go to town.
I don't blame you. We have not done recruiting. I want to get that done tonight. Can't go into the weekend without a recruiting report.
Please avail us of tonight's recruiting.
So we have 2021 offensive lineman Eli Sutton. He's 6'6", 265 out of Brentwood, Tennessee. USC offered early. He's already been in for a game. He was in for the Georgia game. It won't be his last. He plans to return. He was also in for camp in the summer. So USC has put itself in good shape with him early on. LSU, Louisville, Memphis, Ole Miss, and Vanderbilt also offering him at this point. He's interested in them. Clemson has been in touch. He camped at Clemson as well, and the Tigers are on his mind too, and he hopes to visit there at some point in the near future. 2020 receiver Jalen Hyatt of Dutch Fork plans to return to Clemson tomorrow for an unofficial visit. He visited for the Furman game. He's not been offered, but he feels that one is in the future. He said they're definitely getting closer to that offer. He said it would be amazing. Also talking with USC about an unofficial visit there. Tiger Illustrated reported defensive lineman Tyler Davis of Popka, Florida, who was scheduled for his official to Clemson this weekend, has postponed the visit due to the storm. He's already been officially to Florida State. A couple of Clemson offers going out to 2021 prospects. Defensive lineman Katron Evans of Norfolk, Virginia, and he's a national recruit, offers from a majority of Power 5 schools, and 2021 defensive back Tony Grimes of Virginia Beach. 2020 offensive lineman Seth Williams of Statesville, North Carolina, plans to be at Clemson tomorrow. And in basketball, we mentioned Wildens Levesque yesterday. Here's a little more from him. 6'9" power forward, native of Brockton, Massachusetts. If I'm not mistaken, I believe the great Marvin Hagler was from Brockton, Massachusetts. Was he not?
I have no idea.
Look that up.
I'm getting it.
Anyway,
yeah.
Mr. Levesque attends Gould Academy in Maine. He said that he was supposed to visit USC this weekend.
You are correct with Marvin Hagler. You are correct.
Thank you. One of the great boxers of all time.
Rocky Marciano also there of note.
I want to visit Brockton, Massachusetts.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
So anyway, Levesque had planned to visit USC this weekend, postponed because of the storm. He said he is trying to reschedule. Gamecocks saw him this summer and followed up with an offer. He said that he's excited on visiting USC soon to see what they have to offer. He said he likes the way they are coached, especially how Chris Silva has evolved from his freshman year to now. He is scheduled for an official to VCU this coming weekend. DePaul, George Mason, UMass, Penn State, Providence, Rutgers, Virginia, some other reported offers. Last season, he averaged 14 points, 13 rebounds, and 2 blocks per game. That's recruiting. Make sure you keep an eye on the website and the Twitter over the weekend. With Clemson having a home game, there'll be some people visiting that will be updating. And any other notes that we have from over the weekend, you'll find it on our website. Find them on our website, SportsTalkSC.com, on Twitter. Use the hashtag STRecruiting.
You know who else is from Brockton, Massachusetts, Corn? The late Al Davis, owner of the Raiders.
Well, did you know where Al Davis coached in the state of South Carolina?
Ooh, I know this only because it's been brought up to me privately and previously. I will say it was.
It's just hard. It is really hard for you to just say, I don't know.
Was it Furman?
The Citadel.
Citadel. Oh, that's right. That's right. Citadel. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. You were close. You were close. All right. For our picks of the week, we have a real dogfight going after 2 weeks. Almost everybody is 6-4. The only person not 6-4 would be Kev Cohen, whose 2-year slump continues. He's at 4-6. Everybody else in the competition is 6-4. What do you think about that, Willie?
I think it's great. I think there's parity in the league. We like parity.
That's right. Well, you know what? This is the Pete Rozelle effect. Pete Rozelle wanted every NFL team to be 500.
I think this shows a lot of parity in the league.
Last week, no one was better than 3-2. You were 3-2. Matt, the newsman, was 3-2. The big kahuna, Bobby Harton, was 3-2. Fran, without a K, Halloran, he was 3-2. Most everybody else was 2-3, except Alan, the bad boy Smothers, who was sitting on his back porch listening to us, drinking some hard liquor and watching the rainfall. He was a poor 1-4. What does that tell you about the bad boy going 1-4? What thoughts do you have on that, Willie P?
I want to know what Alan Smothers' poison of choice is tonight. Maybe he was taking some of that poison when he picked those games last week. I would be a little concerned about him.
I'm sure it's pretty strong stuff because, knowing Alan is to know a guy with a very strong gut.
Ugh.
So I'm sure it's very strong. All right, so to this week, Ohio State at TCU, and kind of a split house here. I like TCU. I like the points here. You like TCU.
I do. I still think at some point the Urban Meyer effect or the lack of Urban Meyer effect will have to at least befall them at some point, I would think. And I think it could happen this week because TCU has a very, very good defense.
All right, Alabama at Ole Miss. I'm very nervous about this. I am very nervous because I just don't like picking against Alabama because just when you think you got them, they get you. They're laying 21. That's too many points to turn down. I'm taking Ole Miss in the points. Looks like you're doing the same.
I am.
And right now, we're the only ones doing that.
I don't want to be ever marooned on an island where you and I are the only ones there. That seems odd.
Scary.
Seems very odd.
Scary. LSU at Auburn. I almost changed my mind here after listening to Lee Sterling, but I've got LSU.
As do
most
I.
of us are taking LSU in the points. Again, unless LSU is fooling us, they seem to be a better team than we thought in the preseason. Getting 10.5 even on the Auburn road is a good number, I think.
I'm more, I would say, discouraged by Auburn than I am encouraged by LSU. I would say
Florida State and Syracuse. All right, here we go. Florida State, Syracuse is getting 3 at home.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, you and I agree. Boy, this is really scary.
You don't like that we're agreeing so much.
Most of the others are taking Florida State.
Well, they can have them.
Pro's taking Syracuse. Kev Cohen's taking Florida State. So is the Kahuna. The Bad Boys taking Florida State. Frank, without a K, is taking Syracuse. And Brian, our illustrious producer, is taking Florida State. So, all right, here we go with Clemson, Georgia Southern. And again, I'm taking the points. I think that's a lot of points. I'm not sure what kind of mood Clemson's going to be in. It's going to be perhaps a wet track, which could affect things as well.
No, if you listen to all the rogue meteorologists, all the rain at Clemson's not going to get there until Saturday night. There's going to be no rain. Everything's going to be fine at Clemson. It never rains in Clemson.
Could be a few drops. Could make it a little slick. I don't know if that means anything or not.
The good Lord that Dabo Swinney prays to is going to put a big bubble over Death Valley. There'll be no rain or bad weather of any kind.
Anyway, I'm taking Georgia Southern and the points. You're taking Clemson.
I am, because I think they have to cover eventually. Eventually.
0-2 against the spread thus far.
Not good. I'm not gonna if they don't cover this week, I'm not gonna bet them to cover the rest of the year.
Looks like Kev Cohen is taking the Eagles, and so is the Bad Boy. So the three of us are on that limb ourselves. We shall see. A reminder, high school scoreboards tonight, 10, 10:30, 11. Follow me on Sports Talk SC tomorrow on Twitter. I'll be up covering the Tigers and Georgia Southern. We'll have coverage on Twitter. We'll have post-game coverage on our website. Make sure you check that out.
So you're telling me the swing game between who leads between the two of us this week is Clemson, Georgia Southern? I don't know if I like that.
That's the one.
Oh, yeah.
That's what we're hanging our hats on. We'll see what happens.
Be safe, brother.
Big thanks to Fran with a K, Frank Halloran, working behind the scenes tonight. Great job. You too, Will. Have a great weekend.
You too.
Everybody be safe. Have a wonderful weekend no matter what you're doing. Join us Monday night right here on Sports Talk. We'll see you then.